Okay, today's lecture is the first in part one of a series of four on the Byzantine Empire. All right, so this one's called the Early Byzantine Empire. Um, and things that you should know about is before we talk about the Byzantine Empire, we need to talk about the kind of the end of the Roman Empire. And essentially, towards the end of the Roman Empire, um, Rome and the Roman Empire was crumbling. People were moving out of Rome and moving to Constantinople, and they were being pretty much invaded. At least the western part of the Roman Empire was being invaded by all these barbarian tribes, Germanic tribes, and so the capital was moved from Rome to Constantinople, which wasn't a very big city at the time, but geographically it was right at the turning area between Asia and Europe. Okay, you had the Black Sea right there, and the Aegean Sea, and the Aegean Sea goes into the Mediterranean Sea. So it's got a really good geographical location. And you have Constantinople, obviously. It's named after Constantine, the first real Roman emperor who accepted Christianity as a major religion. And over time, the emperors became kind of this had this duality. It's called Caesar-Papism. Caesar-Papism, sometimes it's called. And essentially, you have a civic leader and you have a religious leader. Okay, so the emperor kind of served as those dual roles, and as Christianity became more and more of an influence in the Byzantine Empire, okay, their power is going to expand in both of those areas. Now, the emperor that you really need to know for this time period is Justinian. He's from 527 to 565. And there's really three things that you need to know about him. Number one, he rebuilds Constantinople and he builds this beautiful cathedral that will later turn into a mosque called Hagia Sophia. Again, it's right very close to the waterway. And then the other thing that he does is he codifies the Roman law. And what that means really is that the Roman law at that point was kind of a mosh posh of all these different codes and regulations and traditions and cultures and customs and laws, and are all kind of spread out everywhere. And so what he basically did is he kind of collected all of them and said, okay, how can we streamline this process? And then the other thing that you need to know is that he tried to retake and stabilize the western part of the Roman Empire. And so he sends probably his um, best general, and his name is Belisaurus, which kind of reminds me of a dinosaur's name. But he was probably the best military general that he had. But the other thing that you need to know about Justinian is the other half of Justinian, and that is Theodora. Okay, there isn't too many, unfortunately, there isn't too many women that we talk about in history. But Theodora is an interesting woman. She came up from let's just say humble beginnings, kind of like Justinian did. And we know that Theodora was probably married. She had some daughters. She was, how can I put it? She had a dance routine, that was pretty risque. Chances are that she probably was a prostitute, but she managed to catch the eye of Justinian. And again, as you guys saw in the video, when Justinian becomes emperor, he makes her his empress. Now, the problem with that is, of course, is that most of these emperors, okay, tended to find women of the same stature as them, nobility in that sense. And obviously she wasn't, so he kind of had to mask or do away with her kind of her old role in society and kind of create this new woman. But from what we know about her, she was very smart, very pretty, very brave, and very intelligent, and she used those to her advantage. So keep in mind when we talk about the Byzantine Empire, okay, we also got to think of her. The other thing that you need to know is that the Byzantines, because of its location, was constantly harassed by Germanic tribes, Asian tribes, and eventually it'll be harassed by the new Islamic um, faith that was up and coming in the Middle East. Now we'll talk about Islam in the next unit, but Islam rises up during this time period, becomes a very powerful entity, and they look at Constantinople, which is not very far from the Middle East in present day Israel, and they see it as a big, huge prize, and they're constantly hammering away at it, literally. They siege it for weeks on end, months on end, and they definitely see Constantinople as something that they want because of all the trade that goes through Constantinople. Eventually, they are going to get it, but before they do get it, the Byzantines are able to hold them off with a very large population, good generals, but they also invent something that they called, or that's known as Greek fire. Um, Greek fire is more or less, it's kind of like a flaming cannonball, if you would. And of course, on impact, it kind of shatters everything and sets everything on fire. So when um, Israel, excuse me, I'm sorry, not Israel, but when the Islam groups come, and especially when they have boats and they're trying to seize it through the waterways, okay, they set these boats on fire, or they obviously catapult this Greek fire to the armies, and it just kind of decimates them for a while. But eventually, Islam is going to take over, and they're going to rule the Byzantine Empire, and they're going to rename Constantinople Istanbul. All right. So that pretty much concludes this part one of the Byzantine Empire. We'll talk about part two, which deals with the economy and society later.